lembe nile loko. Esiku dede asikoi. Hey guys, it's Adirunke again. Today I'd like to talk about another Yoruba saying. This is more of a saying than it is like an old ancient proverb. So it's a proverb as well, but it's more of a saying. So the title that I've given this video is Ishueni. Ishueni. However, the full proverb is Ishueni nin towo eni bepo. Ishueni nin towo eni bepo. I'm going to expand that statement because some of the words are a combination of two words. Ishueni nin towo eni bepo. When you expand towo, it's a combination of two words, ti and owo. Ti ati owo. Ti pelu owo. Ati and pelu are two words that mean and in English. But I'm going to talk about I'm going to address that in the respective video. However, just trying to expand the words here. Ishueni nin towo eni bepo. Ti owo is towo. Eni bepo. Bepo is a combination of two words as well. Bo ekpo. Bo ekpo. Two words. Bo ekpo. Both combined give you bepo. The Yoruba people like to combine words. I've made the video in that regard, and I'm going to make a follow-up video to that. We like to shrink words when possible. When possible. We like to shrink words and make them one word. So if you say Ishueni nin towo eni bepo, it works. If you say Ishueni nin ti obo eni bo epo, you are still correct. But if you say it that way, especially someone who's more familiar with the saying, they'll know that you are, no judgment at all, but they'll know that you are not necessarily a native speaker. You know, just this is me trying to make learning the language practical, just so that you would be able to flow amongst the Yoruba people. If you say Ishueni nin ti owo eni bo epo, that's perfectly fine. Perfectly. If you say it in the Ishueni nin towo eni bepo way, it works. Now I'm going to give you the word-for-word transliterations like I often do. Issue is yam. Issue is yam. And one of the things that you very quickly come to know if you live amongst the Yoruba people is the good esteem that we hold yam in. You know, it's one of our valued foodstuff, you know. So, and what are the reasons? One, yam may take longer than some other foods to make, and it can be used to make main Yoruba meals, you know. So it's something about yam is just prestigious, you know, in comparison to some other foodstuff. So with yam, you can make inyo. Inyo is pounded yam. Pounded yam. You can make inyo. You can make asaro. Asaro is it? Would you say yam pottage? Because I don't think it's porridge, but maybe yam pottage. I'm not sure if you would say pottage, but asaro. You can eat it like without necessarily putting too much in the yam and just eat it plain like that, and that would be yam. You can eat it with eggs or, you know. So issue anyways, yam. Any is ones. Any is ones or one, or like a person, you know, a person's or one's. Ni is is. Ni is is. When you say in a statement, it's used to give the statement a present tense or like a continuous tense. So the one that, you know, whenever you see you see that something is currently happening in that statement. Whenever you see as a standalone word, or something constantly happens. Nin, you know, the there shows that it's a continuous present tense. The one that, and then Tọwọ. Tọwọ is a combination of two words, like I've said earlier. Ti owo. Ti is like put. Fi is like put without without any kind of force, fi sile, put it down, or like place something somewhere, fi. But when you say t can be like push. It can also be to put, but like with a bit of a force, with a bit of force. May even be used to express like putting something somewhere with a bit of like not wanting it to be there without permission kind of thing. So put, usually forcefully, is when you use t. Put like with force, or with, it's some kind of force is associated with t, but not necessarily. No, some people would use the word even when they're not necessarily putting something somewhere by force. So t, anyway, let's just say put forcefully or push. Owo is and. Owo and. Owo is and. Any is one's, or a person, or a person's. Bo, in or into. In or into. Bo ekpo, bepo. So you could say bepo, you could say bo ekpo. Bo ekpo. In or into is bo. Ekpo is palm oil. Ekpo is palm oil. Say palm. Palm oil. From igi okpe. Okpe is the palm. Igi is tree. Okpe is palm tree. Ekpo is something that you get from the palm tree. Ekpo, palm oil. So when you put these words together, when you put these words together, what do you get? One's yam is the one that puts or pushes one's and into or in, palm oil. One's yam is the one that pushes one's and into palm oil. If you were to, it sounds rough, right? Because it's a word for word transliteration. So you have to translate that properly, right? So one's yam puts one's and in palm oil. Or you could say one's yam pushes one's hand into palm oil. If you're going to say one's yam puts one's hand in palm oil, the put there wouldn't be like gently put. See, it would be like put with a bit of a force. One's yam puts one's hand in palm oil. One's yam pushes one's hand into palm oil. So for anybody who is traditional, for anyone who knows what I'm talking about, we eat ishu atepo. Ishu atepo is yam and palm oil. You can use a stew if you'd like. You can use eggs if you'd like. What else can you eat yam with? You can eat it with a lot of things. But palm oil is one of them. Raw palm oil, in fact. If you'd like, you can eat it a bit to make it just warm, especially if the yam has gotten cold. Again, remember that there was no microwave or anything back then. So yam and palm oil is really, really delicious. Towo with cold water. So when I start vlogging, I'll probably like go to some parts of Nigeria and maybe eat different foods. So just show you like how we combine our foods sometime in the future. So yam and palm oil. Now palm oil, there are different perspectives to palm oil, especially when it's used as a metaphor for something. Can be used like to signify or as a metaphor for something that is good. It can be used as a metaphor for something that can stain you just because of the properties that the palm oil has. When palm oil stains your hand, it's very difficult to, or stains your clothes. It's easier with your hands, but when it stains your clothes, it can be difficult to get it out, just because it sticks somehow. Especially when you're wearing white, it's sometimes in statements, it's sometimes used as a metaphor for, something that you you stay away from, especially when you're wearing white, something you'd rather avoid. So when you're eating yam, ordinarily you won't just dip your hand in palm oil and start licking it, or like, even want to be close to it if you don't need to be. But because the food that you're eating, yam, requires you to, just so that it will taste better, you can eat yam and palm oil. So you are putting your hand in palm oil because of the yam. Ordinarily, like if you were not eating yam, or you were not eating anything that would require you to use palm oil, you'd rather stay away from it. Like, you can't wear white and go and sit beside a bowl of palm oil, for example. You will get stained, especially if, say, a little child is playing and they pour the thing away and it splashes on you by mistake. What can you do? Even if the person is not a child, what can you do? You just, if they apologize, you just have to. And even if they don't really, what are you going to do? So it's something you'd rather stay away from. And that's its purpose in this statement. It's because of the yam that we put our hand in palm oil. If we were not eating yam, or if we had no business with the palm oil, we'd rather stay away from it, just because it stains you. It's difficult to get it out once it stains you. So what this statement means is, what a person loves, or who a person loves or wants, really, makes them experience what they would rather avoid. So because you love yam and you'd like it to taste better in your mouth, I guess you would put it in palm oil. Ordinarily, you would not just dip your hand in palm oil and put it even close to your face. So it is said by a person when they experience an unavoidable indignity because someone, mostly someone, or something that they love is involved. It is said by a person when they experience an unavoidable indignity because someone, usually someone, or something that they love is involved. So I'm going to give you scenarios for when this can be said. So let's say you have to go through an intense strip search because someone that you love is in maximum prison and you have to see them. So ordinarily, you'd rather avoid being strip searched or manhandled, but because you have to see them in max, you would let yourself be strip searched. Just some law enforcement officers can be nasty because they would do things that they don't necessarily need to do just to humiliate you. So they may not necessarily have to go do a strip search on you or anything, but for the fun of it, just to give them a bit of excitement, I guess some people would do it. So yeah, that would be one scenario. You might just say it in your mind or say it out loud in Yoruba. That's if they know what you're saying. That's Bepo. Ordinarily, why would I even be here in the first place? It's because I love this person. It's because I love yam standing as a metaphor for the person you love, that you're putting yourself in the palm oil scenario, that you're dipping yourself in the palm oil scenario, that you're letting yourself go through an indignity that you'd rather avoid. Another thing is having to eavesdrop on awful your mama jokes about you because your son and his friends think it's an excellent Saturday evening sport. So you wake up from your sleep and you listen into your son and his friends making jokes about their mothers. I don't know, why would they even, but yeah. In that kind of situation, what would you do, right? Like ordinarily, this youngins have no business like trashing you in a joke, but because your son is involved, what can you do? So in that case, that would be another issue, any Towo, any Bepo scenario. Third is serving a punishment with or for your best friend in a bid to protect them or avoid exposing them. So someone has made note. For me, that I went to a boarding school in Nigeria for my senior secondary education, usually like your friend would either make noise or like, I didn't even have friends anyway, but your roommates would make noise and you would try to like If they say, who was that? Nobody would want to say, oh, it was this person. So usually they'll say, can nobody tell me who it is? You can all kneel down, So we would kneel or we would serve a punishment just because we love that person, Even if we don't know that person, it's just what we do, So serving a punishment in a bid to avoid exposing. So ordinarily, you would not be kneeling down for anybody, but just because they're your roommate or they've done something nice for you in the past, I guess you hold them one, so you serve the punishment. So that would be another scenario. One thing that I'd like to clarify, though, is you would not say this if you believe that the person, whether they're your friend or your lover or your child, whoever they are or whatever they are, whatever it is in the right. That's why I said it's usually a person, right? So it would be someone usually is in the right and you're standing by them. You will not say this if you believe that the person is right and you're on their side. Like, it doesn't mean that when you say Towo, you are not on their side, but you would rather that they did not involve themselves in that at all, so that you won't have to go through it. But you would almost never say this if you believe that the person is right, that what they've done is good, So why would you will not believe that it's an equal situation, that it's a situation that can stain you, just because it's the right thing to do. You would instead say this when you don't exactly fancy what they've done. Somehow you're bearing the brunt of their action or suffering an inconvenience because of it. So you're suffering an inconvenience because what they've done is not exactly right. The fourth scenario would be you're insulted along with your child because they've offended someone or they've done something undeniably wrong. So in that case, you'd say, the only reason I'm even apologizing to this person is because my child has done anything wrong. They are so rude and disrespectful, like they don't even deserve a sorry. But just because my child has been rude to them or has done something to them, you're apologizing to them, whatever. So it's because of someone that you love that you're doing something that you'd rather not do or experiencing something that you'd rather avoid. It's something that Mrs. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti would not have said about her son, Fela Anikulapo Kuti. He was born Ransom Kuti, but he changed. Like, what the hell is Ransom? What kind of surname? What kind of last name is that? Ransom for? Is he a ransom for something, or does he have to pay a ransom? He thought it was rather stupid, so he changed it to Anikulapo, someone who has death in his pouch. So, this is someone who has stopped being afraid of death, is connected to his divine self. Death is literally just new life or a return to your home. So, stop being afraid of death. And that was empowering because it was able to do things that a lot of people would not have dared to do. And Fela's lineage, I don't know if you're into Fela's music, but I am. Fela's lineage is of the great, his father was a reverend, and the father was a pianist, and the father was into music, but not just Fela's type of music, more like the religious music. And I think he was a school principal. They were educated, they were influential, and even his great-grandfather or something, they've always been into music, but it's this restricted religious type of music, especially like his ancestors that were alive during the colonial era or like the slavery era. It must have been like that kind of religious music, not necessarily the kind of music that he was into, or like empowering music. So his mother was the first African woman to drive a car in Africa. So again, like I said, the mother was so influential. She stopped market women from paying taxes. She was like, the hell with taxes. Why would these women look at what it takes, to stay in this market? Why on earth would you tell these women how much money are they making? Why would you be taxing these ones? So she stopped them from paying taxes. And there was another, especially women in Ogun State then. And she was so influential. She drove a king away from she drove a king away from his throne just because he was like misbehaving. So in essence, this woman was powerful. So of course, Fela, like his siblings, was to go into the line of medicine, was to study the sciences. His brother Bepo, I think his sister Dolupe, was a nurse. Essentially, his siblings were into like medicine and all of that. Fela was like, this is not for me. No, I don't see myself doing medicine. So I can't picture myself being a doctor. That doesn't, it wasn't like it wasn't brilliant enough to have studied the sciences, but it just wasn't for him, right? It doesn't mean, Fela was extremely intelligent. So he transferred to music. And he started to do music, the kind of music that he began with when he was with the Kuala Lumpur Beatles was like the love kind of music, or like the I life, just gyrating type of music. It wasn't, oh, my music is it's for the times, to fight against military government and the mistreatment of people. So suddenly it's like when it's like when your Pluto goes into the first house, right? It's like you something about you just changes, and you don't want to be this conforming person anymore. In the year 1960, he got married to Remilekun Taylor, who was Remilekun Kuti, for the time that he was like a nuclear, just the regular marriage structure. And in 1978, he got married to about 20 something wives. He got married to 27 wives in 1978. So the thing about look at people like Bob Marley and people like Fela. There's a thing with the greats, especially people who are non-conformists. They don't conform to like the traditional one man, one wife ideology. So I think that's pretty interesting. Of course, his wives were happy to marry him. Who wouldn't be? It was Fela, for goodness sake. So but anyway, back to my point. Because he started to do this kind of music, of course, he began to be attacked by the military government. What do you think? So they would beat him. Woman na Fela. They beat him so badly. The military government would come to his wife and attack him. There are songs about this. They would beat him. They would beat his wife. They would beat the people who didn't really want to conform to European standards. And this was like fresh out of colonialism, right? It was not too long after independence. So people were still conforming to the European standards. And with the influence of the military government, the people, again, just because the people had been very docile to the European government, they had to be docile to the military government. Like, these were people who, for the longest time, had not fought for their rights in any way. Like, who are you to fight with a military with a British official, or like with the British government? Even if you suffer something that is an injustice, the old country is like their colony. So how dare you even say anything? So these were people who had been trained and manipulated to be submissive. But Fela was awake. Fela was that's why we call him a Bamieda. It wasn't, at that point, it wasn't thinking the way the average Nigerian would have thought. So it was, again, his life path is one. So this is, that this person, winning gave a spoon as well. So just like me, so a teacher, a healer, that at some point this person is going to start sharing wisdom, sharing knowledge. You're not just going to, especially if you are one, like, you would push a message, So he began to attack the military government and those that he thought we're corrupt, which is, of course, your words are your sword, right? So it began to say, this is wrong, and it would yab them, like it would insult them in his songs and say, you guys are thieves. This is not how to treat people. What's your business with me? Why are you maltreating me just because I'm exposing the truth? His mother was solidly beside him. If you listen to his memoirs, or like people who visited him when he was alive and he spoke to interviews, he didn't talk about his father much. I don't think, because his father wasn't in support. He just zeroed his father out. But his mother was. So his mother, I think he got his like spirit from his mother, just because she was a freedom fighter, especially for women. So he began to do his work with his mother's support. I don't think his mother minded the fact that he smoked a lot of weed. Like when he was the docile fella, she was with him. However, when he changed, something about Uranus and Pluto, something just changed. She stood by him as well. Somehow she got it. When not a lot of people got it, she got it. And fella was always surrounded by young men who, they didn't want to be subjected to the European ideologies as well. So sometimes they would give themselves new names. People who were Peter, or like Paul, or like Nebuchadnezzar, names that they had no business bearing. No offense. They changed their names to more traditional names. Fela changed his last name from Ransom. Like, what? Why is my name Ransom? Ransom? Am I a ransom for? Why do I have to pay? So he changed it. It's just like in America, people that were not born. Look at Malcolm X. It changed his last name to X just because it was cancelling that European name that he was born with to Shabazz. So long story short, Fela was charged for armed robbery, charged for stealing, charged for... There was a particular time that the military government attacked his home, burnt his home, that they threw his mother. They threw her from like the balcony. So the woman went through a lot for the sake of her child. A lot. So my essential point is, Ishueni nin towo eni Bepo isn't what Fela's mother would have said, just because she didn't think it was staining her name in any way. If anything, she was with him. I think she was even the one that, the women that were in his band, of course, nobody traditional was going to marry them just because, like, even now that everyone is saying, oh, fella, I'm pretty sure, like, back then, how many people would have allowed their children to play with fella's children just because? Why would you play with the child of that weird guy, that weed smoker? But now everybody wants to be associated with the family, and everyone swears that fella knew them when they were alive, and everyone but now that is great, and everyone is now partially awake, and a little bit, I don't say partially is a lot for the main Nigeria, because if they were partially awake, then the country would be better. People would be standing up for themselves a little bit more. But yeah, I guess people can now see what the man was saying, and people are listening to his records and everything. I think the mother encouraged him to marry his wives just because no one was going to really marry them. Like, he divorced all 27 of them, but actually 28, including Mrs. Remileko Taylor. All of them just became wifeless. There was an interview of him where he said, like, marriage is suffering, The man went through like significant changes throughout his life in his mindset, but his messages still stand. Anyway, but at the time of his death, he didn't have any wife, so, but at the time that it mattered, he had his wives around him. And the way that he portrayed them, he allowed them to be free. There were two sides to it. It wasn't necessarily like a feminist thing. Fela wasn't a feminist. If anything, I don't think if he was alive now, pretty sure his mindset would have changed as well. Like, that is Fela. You can't define the man. You can't say, oh, if Fela was like this is what he would have thought about this. You'll be quite surprised that sometimes maybe what he would have thought is quite different from what you think. So yeah, his mother stood with him, and she wouldn't have said issue and mean Tọwọ and Bepo just because she subscribed to, even when she was thrown out from the balcony, right? And she broke her leg. She wouldn't have said, oh, it's because of my son that my leg got broken. She wouldn't have thought that at all. She was aligned with what he was doing. And even after, they were so connected that even after the death of his mother, he still continued to see her, you know, in his dreams. And yeah, it was extremely psychic, I would say. Yeah, it was psychic. Even his son, there's a memo of him where he also mentioned that his son Femi is quite psychic as well. So anyway, enough of the Kuti family. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, subscribe, you know, everything that you'd like to do to support this channel. And thank you for your support, for your monetary support. Thank you so much. And I'll see you in the next video. Enjoy the rest of your day, and goodbye.